Many people want to believe in God, but they want to believe in a version of God that they're comfortable with rather than believing in the God of the Bible. But I'm going to give you an illustration to show you why this is a problem. Have you ever heard people say, well, to you, God might be like that, but to me, God is like this? I don't think people actually stop to think how ridiculous this is, and I'm going to show you with this illustration. So if someone wanted to find out who I was, Matt from Line of Fire Raw, you could come on the channel, you could ask me about myself, and I would tell you that I'm a male. I'm from Australia. I'm about 5'8". I have blue eyes. I have brown hair. But imagine someone else came along and they said, well, that's who Matt is to you, but to me, Matt is actually a Chinese woman, 75 years old, 5'2", in a wheelchair with grey hair. And then someone else comes along and says, well, to me, Matt is actually a 6'5" Sudanese man with dark hair and brown eyes. What would you think? You would think it's absolutely ridiculous because I can only be who I actually am. And in the same way, God can only be who he is. The law of non-contradiction tells us that. Common sense tells us that. He can't be two versions of God at the same time. He can only be who he is. We can't just make up a version of God that we want. That's called an exercise in delusion. So the question becomes, how do we find out who God actually is? That's the question. Well, we'd have to ask ourselves, who is most reliable to tell us who God is? And the answer to this would be Jesus Christ. Why? Because he fulfilled hundreds of prophecies, hundreds, thousands of years before his birth, and he claimed to be God in the flesh. He backed it up by performing signs and miracles and historically rising from the dead. And he is the one who can tell us accurately who God is. We have God's word, which is the revelation of who he is. And the veracity of the Bible has been proven through archaeological evidence, historical evidence, through his divine origin has been confirmed through fulfilled prophecy. We can come and see who God is by looking at his word, but we can't just make it up in our minds. The Bible actually warns us against idolatry. God says that I am the only God, besides me there is no God. And the second commandment warns us against idolatry, which is creating a God in our own mind, oftentimes so that we can be more comfortable with that version of God. Basically a God where there's no moral accountability and we can live however we want. So what I would say to you is, if you want to truly know who God is, get into the Bible and get a revelation. Ask him to reveal himself and read this Bible for that particular reason, that God would reveal himself to you. And I can promise you that as you do that, God will reveal himself to you. And I can also promise you that the version of God, the true version of God, who he really is, revealed in this word, is far greater than anything that you could ever create in your mind. And if you want to learn more about this God, stick around and watch this channel, and I look forward to continuing to talk about it with you. Feel free to leave any comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to talking to you soon. God bless you, friends.